Just got a few more people rolling in, everybody, so we'll just give it another minute or so and then we'll get underway. Hi everybody, welcome along to DQ's regular fortnightly webinar program. Thank you so much for joining us today. Delighted to have two great speakers today. We've got Bridget Legnavsky, General Manager of Cardrona and Treble Cone with us today, and Lisa Whitelaw, Senior Regional Manager of Business Development at Expedia. So we'll hand over to the ladies shortly, but just to note, we'll follow our normal procedure of having a Q&A session after our speakers. So if anybody's got any questions, please feel free just to be writing them in that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen as we go, and then we'll address them at the end of the session. But first of all, I'd like to give a warm welcome to Bridget and hand over to her for an update on the season now that we're underway.
Thanks, Sarah. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Yeah.
I'm coming to you from a closet at Treble Cone because it was the only private area I could find, and luckily I'm also very pleased to be out of my pajamas, because last time I did something like this I realised afterwards I was still in my pajamas. But I am sorry I haven't put a slide deck together for you, because I was just throwing some stuff together at the last minute, because obviously we've actually only been open 7 days, and I'm assuming people will want to know how we're going and what we're seeing. So that's what I've focused on. Please throw out any questions and anything else that you would want to know. I'm sort of taking a wild guess at what I think will be the most relevant and most interesting for you. So just to start off with, clearly we had a really rocky start and rode into winter, not even at one point or quite a few points in it, not even knowing if we were going to open. We did push back our opening dates on Cardrona. We usually open early June, and we pushed that back to the end of June. And then we got out of lockdown, moved through it, and as everybody knows, we got into level 2. Then we had to do our bit with the rest of the ski industry, and Paul talked about that last time. Worked really hard to get some level 2 safe operating procedures in place so that we were accepted to open. So there was a big piece of work there. Now, it seems a little irrelevant because we got into level 1, but the relevance of it is that once we got into level 2, we were able to go ahead, finish maintenance, start planning, start hiring staff, knowing that we could get open. So that was awesome. And then when we're in level 2, it moved from expecting a local market. So we're like, how's this going to work with 25% of our normal numbers, and then everything opening up. And now what we're facing and what we have forecast is about a 50% of our normal market. So that's what we've gone into. Just to be clear on that, normally we would see about 60% domestic, but we have forecasted 50% based on, as everybody in the room knows, the complexities around what that domestic market may in fact look like. Yeah, we pushed it back. One of the reasons we pushed Cardrona right back to the end of June was the fact that the early June business for us has been very focused on international tourists and more of a snow play, sort of come to the mountain, touch the snow, learn to ski experience. And we don't generally see locals up to the resorts until the snow comes. So we did push it back quickly because we knew that if we were dealing with only skiers and snowboarders, that's what we would go for. And we were pretty blimmin' lucky really, because we had a super warm May and June. And then got to opening day, or got to about a week before opening day, and got the unbelievable 25 centimetres of snow right at the right time. People will question how much water we have with us, but everything seemed to work out perfectly for us. And that actually got Cardrona open on the 26th of June and TC open on the 27th of June. TC a bit by the skin of its teeth because it's a little lower. Cardrona wasn't too bad. I guess the big thing we saw through those months of May and June was incredible support from our local community. and encouragement, and people really encouraging us to go for it and thank us. And we also realized at that point quite a massive responsibility for the rest of the community to get winter going, so that hotels could open, restaurants could open, shops could open, and we would start to see that domestic arrival happen if there was something to attract them down here. We got benefit out of that too, because obviously people will have noticed that skis probably had more recognition nationally than it's ever had before, which has been awesome. So far we've been open for 7 days. It's been a very thin start, like I've said, especially at TC, but Cardrona's got more snow. And the good news is that we are expecting about 0.5 metre of snow over the next 3 or 4 days. We're probably starting tomorrow night and into Sunday, maybe even up to more than that at the top of Treble Cone, but a really, really good snow forecast for us all, which is brilliant, because as soon as that snow comes, people will come flooding, and especially with that domestic market, they'll be very much chasing the good snow. So I think that's, we're all super lucky to see that in the forecast, and as long as we've got chains in our boots, we're going to have a great time. So what we've seen in the last 7 days, we only opened TC last weekend, and then we actually went back and closed it for the week just because we didn't have enough snow and we had to rebuild trails after a warm weekend. But we're back open today. I can show you out my window, but we're here. We've got the saddle open. We have seen, what's interesting with our skier days so far in the 7 days compared with last year, we're 40% down, which is better than we expected. So that's actually a really good result. And we had forecasted 50% down, but interestingly, our revenue is down 60%. Now, that's really interesting for us, because we're going to see, we think we're confident with the volumes. And in fact, we're confident that the volumes could potentially be better than we expected. And there's some other reasons for that. But we are very, very concerned about the spending, the way that people have normally and traditionally spent on a ski resort. Probably part of that is to do with the season pass usage. So our season pass usage is up 40% on the first 7 days. So last year, season passes were about 23% of our all lift usage, and this year it's 54%. So that is all locals on season passes. So that probably gives a really good understanding as to why that yield or that revenue is down. So it is a locals market so far, and as we go into this weekend and into the next couple of weeks, we're expecting much more of a domestic market, people travelling from all around New Zealand. And that volume and the talk about that is really, 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 really strong, and we're excited about what that may mean to us. Even though that volume is really good, we've got, like I've said, we've got some real concerns around the yield. So we've had quite a good unpick of this, and where we're seeing real pressure for us, or real low levels of businesses in the ski and snowboard school products, especially in things like the traditional style group lesson. For example, today we had one snowboard group go out, and about actually probably 4 beginner ski groups go out. Compared to last year, it would have been more like 8 snowboard groups and maybe 20 beginner groups. So that business, especially around that first time packs and that normal traditional group business, is completely bottomed out on us. Those people are generally tourists here to learn to ski from overseas. And of course that flows on to the fact that rentals and our rental business is very low. This is a concern for us because the ski and snowboard school and rentals are quite good external kind of business units in the ski area sense. So we've got to take a really good hard look at that. And that will change over the next couple of weeks, but not as dramatically as we would like to. We're expecting. The good thing is Kindy is almost about the same, but Kindy is always quite limited anyway. And what we're seeing with those families and those young families so far, we've been out talking to them all. They all just want to do their own thing. They're very happy to sort of share care and the calf and do a bit of skiing with their kids, and they don't really want to pay for anything. And their comments have been, oh, Kindy's just too expensive. So we are dealing with a value market. Where we see really good opportunities and where things are quite strong is anything through the website. So the web sales are going crazy. The website usage, the purchasing of the website from domestic business has actually gone through the roof. So that's really, really exciting. People are way more online savvy, much to be expected post-lockdown. The other thing that we have seen is extraordinarily good results in multi-day sales post the holidays. So that's where we put out a a deal for people to, you know, buy 5 days at a low price, and those passes have gone really, really well. So it's New Zealanders coming post the holidays looking for a value proposition, and that's what they've gone for, and those numbers are really strong and give us confidence beyond the holidays. Where we're seeing the yield doing okay is on some areas. So the kids programs are doing really well. So anything that's multi-day, good educational, really good programs. And they've always been our best programs, but now it's showing because Kiwis are they seem to be so, you know, kind of conscious of what they're buying. So things like our ski week programs, our multi-day kids programs, really, really good sign up on our TC free ride program. On anything that's multiple days, that's really good education for kids. So people see that as really high value. We're seeing some very wealthy Kiwis coming in. They're definitely here. They're buying private lessons, but low in comparison to what we've had in the past. And when it comes down to the products sort of underneath that, the traditional normal products that we usually run day in, day out, there's just very, very little volume there. Food and beverage is quite strong, and it's interesting, really strong in coffee and beer. So Kiwis love to drink beer on a ski resort, and they love their coffee, and they're really willing to spend money on good food, but not rubbish food. So the quality of the food, we're really looking at stepping up, reducing the menu so they're shorter, but what we do offer really, really high quality, and keeping the wine list really strong, the coffee going as fast and hard as we can, and beer flowing really well, because that's what people are buying, which is great. So right now we're in a process where we're going, okay, the traditional products aren't going to work that well. What else are we going to do? So we're looking at things that Kiwis might like to do, and it's an easy one for us because we just have to go, what would I want to do if I was on holiday? And we've got some really good opportunities around our nighttime. So when people stay overnight up at Cardrona, really entertaining them through the night by doing things in the restaurants, looking at tours at night, you know, really upping our stargazing type products, groomer tours, things like that. And we're during the daytime, we're starting to stretch and look at more adventurous style products like ski touring and getting into the backcountry a little bit more, because that seems to be what we think will attract this domestic visitor a bit more. But the reality is we're still a little unknown post the holidays, and we are remaining extremely conservative with our staffing levels because we just don't entirely know what will happen. But there is definitely confidence there that the numbers are going to be coming. We're going to have strength in our numbers, but we just have to be very careful about how we get the spend across the rest of the departments. Some things that we're really noticing, and I'm sure most people here will have seen this, is we used to be able to take a wild guess at how many people were on the ski resort by the cars in the car park. That's almost impossible to do now because everyone drives their own car, and the car parking is filling up way before the numbers would normally tell you that. So we're really trying to push shuttle transport and buses, and doing a lot of work around that, especially on chain days, to try and stop the traffic of the cars coming up to the car parks. I've noticed that, and some of you that are in hotels will have seen that. It's really hard to get a car park at a hotel because everyone that arrived at the hotel came in a car. We're hearing really good stories about hotels, and I'm sure there's people on here that know a lot more than this about me, but Airbnbs, they're getting bookings where last year they didn't have bookings, and that's looking really promising, and this is all post-holidays. And I had a check around with the retailers too. Retailers are reporting, not saying too much, but very, very strong interest, quite latent demand. So nobody bought anything obviously in May, and then there was a fantastic June for a lot of people, and it got really picked up. And when people got confidence that the ski resorts would open, you know, there's a lot of reordering going in place, especially around accessories like goggles, hats, gloves, things like that. So just looking forward to this 2020 season. It is going to be a challenge. There's going to be a bunch of unknowns, but we have enormous support domestically, and we're really happy about that. Tourism New Zealand are going into market next week with their winter holiday campaign. Tourism New Zealand have been down here last week talking to us, and that's going across everything in their Do Something New New Zealand campaign, which I think will really help us if we can get that snow message out, especially right out to the biggest cities and right up to Auckland, we can get people that message of how good it is. So our social media has to be really strong and encouraging people down and making sure those flights keep coming in too. We haven't got many events on this year, obviously. The Winter Games has moved into a content-based event called the Obsidian, and it's going to happen mid-August, so we're excited about that. We're not putting a huge amount of trust in what we would normally do. We were hoping a whole lot of spectators will come, because what we do find with Kiwis is they're not really that keen to spectate. They're more keen to have a go skiing, except for when the Prime Minister comes, when every Tom, Dick and Harry turned up. So maybe we need to get her down a couple more times, because she certainly brought an audience with her. But I guess the main message is that the focus for this season is going to be, the volume will be down there here, but if we're going to try and get yield out of these people, we have to focus entirely on quality and entirely on value, and ensuring we're fitting and thinking outside the box to make sure we're covering what our Kiwis really want to do. And we feel very grateful that we're in an industry that is all about taking people outdoors, being able to share that with their friends and family, and get some exercise together, because that's the sort of thing that people reflected on most during lockdown. And we're really seeing that, and every single face that comes up here is a big smile and a big thank you, which is just awesome to get that encouragement and to be up and going for the season.
Just unmute myself. Thanks, Bridget. Really appreciate that. It is reassuring to hear that there is some confidence around the numbers, notwithstanding the challenge regarding yield. But certainly, we're very fortunate to have our mountains up and running, and it's a huge benefit for our towns. We will have some Q&A at the end of the session, but I'll just hand over now quickly, because someone has started drilling in the background. I'll quickly hand over to Lisa. Mute myself.
Sure. Okay, let me just pull up my presentation. Can everybody see that okay? Hopefully, yes.
Yes, yep.
Great. Okay. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Whitelaw, and I work for Expedia Group Media Solutions. I'm based in Sydney, and I head up the Oceania Media Partnerships team. And what we do is help partners to achieve their objectives through our global reach and our marketing solutions. And we work with partners across many different verticals. Many of them are in the travel industry, so tourist boards, hotels, airlines, car hire, activities. But we also work with a lot of non-travel partners as well, like finance or consumer goods or any kind of travel relevant products. I'm originally from Edinburgh. My accent is getting weaker and weaker, but I'm from Edinburgh, and I've worked at Expedia for 9 years across multiple continents. So who is Expedia Group Media Solutions? Well, we are the digital marketing organization within Expedia Group, and we're a two-sided marketplace, because what we do is connect advertisers with travelers across our global network of brands. And so speaking of our portfolio, we have over 200 sites in over 75 countries, and you can see all the brands under the EG umbrella below, but I've highlighted in a box the 4 brands that we have in Australia and New Zealand. So we have Expedia, hotels.com, lastminute.com.au or .nz, and What If. And most recently, to add to the family of brands, is Vrbo, and this is our kind of holiday rental brand, and you will be familiar with Book a Batch in New Zealand and Stays in Australia that sort of sit under the Vrbo umbrella. And so we're in a very unique position because we are a media publisher, but also an e-commerce site. So we have a huge insight into and great data points into trends that are happening. And what I'll be sharing with you today is some search behavior that has happened on our sites over the last kind of 8 weeks, and then also looking ahead as well, and kind of narrowing down into the Australian and domestic market and looking at winter travel specifically. So getting into the numbers, this first graph shows you search growth and decline rates over an 8-week period. So just to clarify, you're not looking at search volume, you're just looking at the changes in growth and decline. So even though we do see a sweeping kind of downward line between May 11th and June 8th, week-on-week searches to Queenstown from the domestic market were still growing every week. It's just that the momentum wasn't quite as strong as it was week commencing May. 11th. What's really interesting is that we can really align different points here, different peaks and troughs with announcements by the government. So May 11th, week commencing May 11th, was when it was announced that New Zealand would go from level 3 into level 2. And I think that created a lot of optimism, and people really began to think about where they were going to go and where they were going to travel to. We continue to see growth week on week, but then we see it peak around week commencing June 8th. Again, we can align this with when there was an announcement that there was no more COVID cases in New Zealand and that all restrictions were being lifted apart from border control. So we see this spike here. The week following, we do see a decline, and the decline, we still saw a decline, week on week, commencing June 22nd, which I think is, in response to the new cases perhaps that have been, found in New Zealand. But the momentum is improving, and I hope that over these weeks and months to come, we'll begin to see that pick up again and again. This looks at Australian search trends. So again, it's growth and decline rates rather than volume. And there's a bit more of a fluctuation going on here. But again, we can tie this clearly back to announcements that were made in the Australian market, which with regards to restrictions and such. So week commencing May 25th, there were a lot of states that were allowed to basically travel within their state. Some borders were open. There was a bit more free movement involved. And also around this time, talk of the kind of the travel bubble between Australia and New Zealand was quite prevalent. So we really see that affect the searches in the growth rates for searches to Queenstown. We see a bit of a dip coming down to week commencing June 1st, which by speculation may just be because people continue to search but more for domestic trips in Australia. And then again, we see this peak exactly like we did for the New Zealand market when there was an announcement about no COVID cases in New Zealand. So this also affected the search behavior of Australians, and it gave them confidence about, seeing that they could return and looking at what that might be. We have seen this taper off a bit, week commencing June 15 and June 22nd, which again, by speculation, I think is to do with the recent cases and maybe also a bit of uncertainty about when Australians can actually travel to New Zealand. And here are the trends layered on together. The international one is all international, so it includes Australia and all other international markets, but the largest share of international searches is coming from Australia. But it's interesting to see that there are some patterns, there are some trends that correlate, particularly on week commencing June the 8th. But what we've seen is that the growth rates for searches to Queenstown have been higher, from the domestic market, which is what we would expect. And the domestic search momentum is increasing or rising faster than international from the latest view that we can see. So this next chart is really interesting because what we're looking at here is search volume for kind of June and months ahead and how this changed over a 4-week period. So this is all searches in June for these months. And there's a couple of key things we can pull out. First of all is the volume of searches for winter months. So June, July, August, this is where people are looking to go. We see that there's the highest volume for these winter months. But what's also encouraging is from July through to the end of December, you see that with every week that went by in June, the searches for all of these months increased. So there was positive momentum, which is a really good thing. January, we can see that actually there was higher kind of search volume, at the beginning of June versus the end, but that would be down to a shift in people actually searching for a travel period sooner than that. So, encouraging volume for winter travel and encouraging to see that as the weeks go by, the volume of searches is going up. This is an interesting, we have a tool that we can use to understand kind of traveler sentiment around a destination or what resonates with people when they're posting about a certain destination. So we use social listening data from Spreadfast to understand all the keywords and key terms that are being used when people post about Queenstown on social media channels or blogs or anything like that. And this can be, anybody. So they can be dreaming about going to Queenstown, they can be in Queenstown, it could be reflecting on a holiday. But the 5 key themes that came up were nature, adventure, family, winter, and outdoor. Nature and adventure definitely being those key themes. And so this is just something to keep in mind, you know, when you think about your offering and kind of maybe even talking to these themes a bit more. And this has been kind of over an 8-week period quite recently. So that these are recent results. These are the top source markets for winter travel. So from all of our sites globally across the world and all of our different brands searching for a winter trip to Queenstown, 80% comes from domestic, just under 10% comes from the Australian market, just under 5% from the US, and Canada and Hong Kong both at under 1%. So domestic really is leading there, as we would expect, but it's still encouraging that for these other markets, particularly long haul ones like the US and Canada, that Queenstown is still kind of top of mind and being considered and thought about, even though people aren't sure exactly when they're going to get over. And here, this shows you an idea of booking, sort of search share by booking window. So when we look at the domestic market, again, this is for winter travel, we see that quite a big chunk falls into people searching for 31 to 60 days out. However, over half of the searches being made by the domestic market are from 0 to 30 days out. And when we look at Australia, naturally, the longer booking windows have a bit more share. So we see more yellow for 31 to 60 days, and we see more grey for 61 to 90 days. And we do see a strip of blue for 91 days out, which is virtually non-existent for domestic. So now moving on to a few kind of key takeaways for any accommodation suppliers or activity suppliers that are listening, who are listed on Expedia, and how a few things that you can do to really drive conversions on our sites during this period. So first, looking at accommodation, really rethinking cancellation policies to be more flexible if you haven't already. So we know that the majority of bookings currently being made for Queenstown are for refundable rates. It's really what our users and customers are looking for. And so being more flexible, it really is key to helping you maximize traffic to your listing. What you see here is a filter on the results for, oh, sorry, it's Cairns. I meant to do Queenstown. It's the same though. So there's a filter on the left and you can select free cancellation. So this filter is the most popular filter being used at the moment. It's surpassing star rating. It's surpassing, having a pool or a spa. I think it's spa is one of the popular filters for Queenstown. So just making sure that you have, cancellation policies that are flexible will really, really help with this right now. We've also updated the health and safety information in Partner Central. So this gives you the opportunity to let us know any cleaning initiatives that you've implemented as a result of COVID. We know that this is a hot topic. It's a big theme at the moment in the industry, and the numbers also, speak to that. So we saw that since the beginning of the pandemic, guest mentions of hotel cleanliness have increased from 12% in January to 37.7% in May. And in a recent survey, a McKinsey consumer travel study, we saw that 40% of Australians would like to see more intense room cleaning. And we can assume it's the same for the domestic market too. So you see in the bottom right-hand corner, here's an example of, it's a travel ad. I'm not sure who's aware of these, but they're sponsored listings on our hotel results pages to give you more visibility. And in this instance, we have a Miami airport hotel, which is leading with its cleaning program in the description of the hotel. So it's really key at the moment, and we know multiple chains some of the big chains are really implementing quite solid cleaning programs and making customers and users aware of this. Also, blackout dates. We would recommend you to keep as many dates open as you can. Things are fluctuating, the situation is changing, and we would be concerned that perhaps having too many blackout dates might be a deterrent. And so just considering keeping as much open as you can. And another thing that's not included in the slides is value adds. So within Expedia Partner Central, you should be able to go in and add value add products. So this is the likes of early check-in or late checkout, a free upgrade, a welcome drink. And so all of these really help you to differentiate yourself. And it's a way to drive conversions without actually discounting your rates. And also specific to Queenstown, if you have any imagery with lake view, lake view rooms, this is really popular. Our customers love to see that. So definitely hero those images if you can. Now on to our activity partners, so experiences and attractions. We had some really interesting insights that showed that there's a positive correlation between the number of images you have in your listing on Expedia and revenue and conversions. So what you see is that as the number of images you have increases, so does the net revenue on the chart on the right. And we would recommend around 8 to 10 photos being ideal. So perhaps look to increase the number of pictures you have, depending on how many are already there. And similarly to that, we now have a functionality. So in April 2019, we launched an ability through the Activity self-service platform for you to be able to upload a video of the experience. And I think people really enjoy to kind of really visually try and immerse themselves in what they would be experiencing. So there's also a positive correlation between having a video and conversions. We found that conversion was more than 3.5 basis points better when the customer had a video to play. And currently only 11% of all activity listings have video included. So there's definitely an opportunity to build that in and benefit from that. Still on the subject of activities, so again, our users are looking for flexibility and being able to be refunded for what they buy. So, if you don't have a refundable cancellation policy, certainly look to build that in. If you can, try and make sure that your cancellation window is under 24 hours. Again, this builds confidence and trust when a booking is made. We would recommend booking cutoffs to be 0 to 4 hours before the activity starts to really capitalize on people that are booking things last minute in market, which they do. But if you do want a higher booking window, try to cap it at 12 hours. So this is a recommendation from our local expert team, the team that kind of manages all the relationships with our activity suppliers. And so just to wrap up, Expedia Media Solutions, we have multiple kind of advertising solutions that are flexible, they're nimble, they're scalable, they can be applied to, and we work with businesses of all different sizes and budgets, and we really tailor whatever we do to that partner, and we are tailoring our offering specifically to disaster recovery right now. So if you're interested in hearing any more about our solutions and products, I'm very happy to give you more information. This is my email here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lisa. I think we're back to that. Great, thank you very much. It's super interesting looking at those key themes and the booking windows as well. And we'll be keeping a close eye on what those spring patterns are doing as we move through winter. Hopefully our members have got some good ideas on increasing their conversions. Look, we've either got a very satisfied bunch of listeners or shy bunch of listeners because we haven't got any Q&A coming in. So really just like to say thank you very much to both our speakers, Bridget and Lisa. If there are questions from members out there questions that you think about later or you'd like to ask quietly, then please just fire an email through to me and I can facilitate that with either Bridget or Lisa. So thank you very much once again, and thanks to our members for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Nice to chat.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.